You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, Doge, and more. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity, provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments throughout the world's leading crypto derivatives markets. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of crypto derivatives. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is Monday. Did you have a good Turkey Day, listeners here in the U.S.? For all of our international listeners, did you have a good week? Well, we're right back at it again. Another episode of the Crypto Rundown. My name, of course, is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. Reminding you at the top of the show, if you're not listening to the full network, man, you are missing out. Make sure you get the full network feed wherever you're getting this show. And, of course, if you want to go above and beyond, you want to go to the world of pro Q&As and options oddities and giveaways and all sorts of fun, theoptionsinsider.com/pro, the place to go to learn more as we learn who's joining us on ye old program today. Pleased to welcome back our old pal, Mr. Bill Ulivieri from Cenacle Capital Management. Mr. Bill, welcome back to the show, sir.
Mark, thanks for having me, and can't wait to get started.
All right, then let's do it. It is time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down all the action in the world's leading digital asset. We're talking about the big boy, which is Bitcoin, looking a little bit bigger this week than it was on the show last week. This week, 95,774, so up a little over 1,000, about 1,041 handles to be precise, from 94,733 last week to 95,774 this week. A lot to unpack, but before we get to all that action from this week, I want to go back a little bit because we haven't chatted with Mr. Bill in a couple of months, since October 7th. So a lot's gone on, including a little thing known as the election, which has been firmly in the bullish camp for all things crypto. So let's start there, Mr. Bill. What's been lighting up your tape in this pretty much endless bull run since the election, sir, in the crypto space?
Oh, Mark, about an hour ago, I sent out a newsletter to our clients, and it was titled, I'm not chasing after stupid money. And I mean, we have valuations in terms of price versus peak earnings ratio this market is just, it's like the ever ready bunny, right? I mean, it just keeps going and going and going and going. And now the hottest, most volatile risk on asset, that being Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, Toncoin. I mean, all these cryptos have just absolutely launched. And I know that this is seasonally for some people, the time where you have to buy these tokens. But listen, we have a pro cryptocurrency administration so far, and there's going to be some big changes in the House, right? We got a new sheriff is in town, and I'm very positive and risk on about that. At the same time, man, oh man, it's just too good to be true. And the contrarian me is absolutely dying here. So yeah, I'm a man that's living a contradiction in my life right now.
Wow, Mr. Bill, the guy who was calling the early end of crypto winter, ever the optimist, starting to feel, dare I say it, too optimistic, like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, sir?
Well, I don't know if it's waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm just saying that, I think the market's just gotten ahead of itself in terms of expectations and complacency. We have interest rates are still 4.5%, to 4.6%. We have global M2 money supplies beginning to decline. We have unemployment upticking. The market is, we bought it. When I say we, I mean the market bought in anticipation of, a new tax code, savings in the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Like all this stuff is all good, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, wow, we did like 2 years of rallying in 6 weeks. And so I'm just a little bit concerned about that. And again, I think what I'd like to see is I'd like to see a little bit of a pullback. I'd like to see more than just a one-day event, but like a nice decline to kind of get valuations both in the cryptocurrency side and in the equity side back to something a little bit more reasonable. I don't like overpaying for things, and I feel like I'm overpaying for things right here.
Well, it's hard to argue with wanting a little bit of a deal out there in these very lofty markets, listeners. Let's break down some of the action out here in all things BTC. Then we could see what kind of deals can be found. Let's go out to the vol front, listeners, and vol coming in a little bit this week. So if you want a little bit of deal on vol, maybe it's looking a little bit better for you. The weekly vol out there, 53 and about a third. That's down from about a 56 this time a week ago. Going out a full month, we had a 55 on the show last week, 58 on the show last week, 55 this week. And the same trend going out 6 months as well. We were at almost a 61 on the show last week. This week, 59, coming in almost 2 points, about 1 3/4 points out there. Let's see if we can find anything interesting in the skew out here this week. See if it's pointing us in any interesting directions this week, listeners. And the weekly skew, it was exactly flat on the show last week, so telling us a whole bunch of nothing last week. This week, almost a +2, +1 3/4, so slightly geared towards the upside, but nothing to write home about. Going out a month, same deal, 3.5 on the show last week, +5 this week, so getting a little bit firmer, a little bit more bullish on the monthly skew out there. And going out 6 months, the hodlers are going to hodl, and they are doing so yet again. 5 3/4 on the show last week. Pretty much the same level this week, about 5.5. So not much evolution out there. Mr. Bill, anything catching your eye in all things BTC from a volatility or a skew perspective this week, sir?
Well, not necessarily in BTC, but again, if BTC is a risk-on asset, I also look at the CBOE skew index, and it's pushing 166, 167, maybe almost 168. And it's interesting to me because we've had like the 3 highest levels all in 2024. I mean, I just find it interesting that the CBOE skew was so steep in the beginning of this year around, maybe April, I think it was, again in the August, September time period, and now again, right as we speak, in December 2nd. So I just find it really, again, I don't always know what it means. I take a note and I put it on a Post-it note and I stick it on my computer screen. So here we have the VIX at relatively low levels for the 2024, yet the skew is really steep, I think, compared to what we've seen, that's like the 3rd highest level. And so, I'm not going to say I don't believe the rally. I'm just saying I'm looking at it with a little bit more caution because like with everybody, I think every investor, every trader, like the extremes are easy for us. When there's blood in the streets, we're buying stuff. When there's too much enthusiasm, we're selling stuff. The middle of the bell curve is where we all struggle to stay long, right? Or to maintain our positions and babysit things. And I'm no different than everybody else. but it just seems to me that things are a little bit overdone here. So I think, maybe selling some skew probably wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, going into the holiday, but I just can't believe there isn't one more. Well, maybe a shoe dropping is a very good explanation in a term that you use, Mark. Like I just seems so. I'm not going to say it seems easy, but I'm just waiting for one more shoe to drop, right? I mean, dirty bomb, the 25th Amendment being invoked for the current administration, like something they can't give up just yet. They have until expiration is January 20th, and I'm telling you, I think the powers that be are going to continue pressing for something, and I don't know what that is. So I guess I'm just a little bit nervous here.
All right, let's hope none of that comes to pass, sir.
Right?
As we keep on. You know what did come to pass since the last time we chatted, Mr. Bill? A pretty big, a seminal moment in the world of crypto and indeed crypto derivatives. The thing we've been waiting for many years on the ETF front and for pretty much almost a full calendar year now at this point on the options front are the options out here in IBIT, and they finally came online. We got to talk about them for the first time on the show last week. Now here we are, listeners, a full 2 weeks under our belt, or pretty close to it here on the old IBIT options front. So it's been fascinating to watch. 54.35 in IBIT when we kicked off the show, up about a third of a point from where it was this time last week. The ADV continuing to grow, 330,000 contracts on the tape. That's up nearly 10,000 from this time a week ago. So folks, sling in some IBIT, 187,000 contracts on the tape today. So it doesn't seem like it's going to hit that today, but we shall see, of which the big dog out there today is 7,400 of the Jan 55s, the Jan doubles. We were talking about this strike before. People like this strike. This is an interesting strike. Let's see, where were they trading out here today? They're trading $5.50, as I recall. This time a week ago, we talked about how that was an interesting option, pun intended, for a covered call. Exactly 10%, pretty much. They're trading about $5.30 today, so still in that same ballpark out there. And in terms of vol, 58.5 on the 30-day front, down 3 points. Mr. Bill, before I break down some of the positions and things, this is very much a seminal moment for the world of crypto and indeed crypto derivatives. People have been waiting for this. And we've been doing this show for how many years? A number of years. And we break down the vol and the skew every week for people. But for a lot of our audience, especially the U.S. audience, that stuff was really inaccessible. They can't trade on Deribit. So it was interesting theoretically for them, but they couldn't really practically implement a lot of that. That has now changed with IBIT. IBIT putting up a lot of numbers, ADV of 330,000 contracts, so it's a very liquid property. The spreads are very, very tight, which is good to see. And it's starting to really mimic what we're seeing out there on Deribit from a skew and a vol perspective. So finally, our U.S. audience has a way to trade this information we've been giving them for years, Mr. Bill. So what are your thoughts on the fact that finally we have IBIT options in our hot little trading accounts, sir?
Listen, you know me, Mark. You know how you and I have been on top of cryptocurrency for years. I mean, we've talked about it personally off the channel, and then in your podcast series. And so you know how optimistic I've been for a number of years, even though I thought that the ETFs were coming in 2018 or 2019, like way too early. This is what I think. I am super excited. I mean, more than probably any of your listeners, I'm incredibly excited to have the conversation about options skew, IBIT, like really good stuff. But I have to be honest with you, from a technical standpoint, the bottom of the 10. So if you look at Bollinger Bands, right, the channel of stocks, ETFs, and even Bitcoin, we have the middle of the bell curve at 42.5 when it comes to IBIT. The bottom of, let's just say technically, right, maybe $40 to $39 a share is like the breakout area. The top of the 10-week moving average is 52. It's currently trading 55, like IBIT, 54.5, 55. So from a trading perspective, I personally, no way am I doing covered calls here, which is essentially short naked puts. I would be buying calls or buying puts and buying IBIT. I'd be buying IBIT and selling my Bitcoin holding or something like that. I know the implied vols are high, but there's just something insane going on here in the world of volatility, especially with MSTR, their convertible bond situation, the volatility of that thing, Coinbase, IBIT, like all this stuff. It's just, and then maybe I'm just so used to things being like I'm so used to the Bitcoin and crypto being the problem child, the black sheep of the family that was always on the regulatory like negative side and always getting beat up and taken out to the shed. Maybe I just don't know what a healthy crypto market looks like, because all we've had is regulatory, choke point 2.0 and regulatory problems. So I'm trying to stay optimistic. I think it's going to be an insanely profitable product for investors. Again, you got to just pick your spots and, put on the trade and manage the risk, because, with the risk comes reward. I mean, it's a two-sided, immutable conversation and position that I just don't think I want to go in and buy IBIT and sell at the money calls. It just doesn't seem the right thing to do to me right now today.
Have you traded any IBIT yet, or are you still kind of waiting and seeing?
No, dude, I've got my screener loaded. Like I am ready. I've got a handful of.
Just waiting.
I am. I mean, seriously, I've got a handful of clients, maybe a half a dozen, that I consider them my crypto degenerates, crypto degens. These are people with, legacy 401ks, legacy IRA accounts that we moved over to our custodian, Charles Schwab, and we trade short naked puts for them, because they understand that if I'm wrong and MSTR gets smoked or Coinbase gets smoked, they know long term that they're positive. They're very bullish on crypto, as I am. So it's just a matter of waiting it out until things get back to normal. So again, maybe a half a dozen or so of people. And so, I mean, I've got the screeners loaded, the option paperwork's been signed. We're doing MSTR, we're doing Coinbase, we're doing some other technology stocks. And it's been fun and it's been profitable. I'm not going to say that every trade was absolutely perfect. We bought things that pulled back. But I tell you, man, this is going to be insane returns over the next 4 years, because again, we have a very crypto positive, friendly administration and everything that comes with that. I'm really psyched. I mean, I'm more optimistic than I've ever been, except just not on a technical basis today.
Just not yet. So you're doing a lot of MicroStrategy. Interesting. Selling puts in MicroStrategy. You are a brave fellow, sir.
Well, again, I should have been doing it. I should have been doing it sooner. But the truth is, we were selling some slightly downside puts, and then MSTR just went off to the races. I mean, I'm in a chat room and a group that we meet once a week. Actually, it's a Zoom call, and all these advisors are buying MSTR because, from the compliance standpoint, they can kind of get away with it. They're owning Bitcoin without owning Bitcoin, and that has me nervous, because these guys really aren't so cryptocurrency friendly, but their clients want them to buy MSTR. And I get it. I buy into everything he's doing. I think Saylor's a genius. He may have found, something good. But at the same time, no one's been able to tell me what the downside risk is. And that has me worried. Again, I used to be a risk manager for, 9 DPMs, 9 designated primary market makers across all the exchanges, right? From California to New York. And sometimes positions get too big and you're managing ego and you're not really managing a derivative. So someone out in your audience, if they know what the downside to the MSTR trade is or to this whole thing, let us know, because I haven't found it yet. And that's why I'm just being cautious here and prudent.
That's an interesting use case to bring up. Advisors using it as their kind of their way to get in and around compliance to buy Bitcoin. Because I've been laughing for a while. I was like, I don't really see the optimism around. I mean, if you want to buy Bitcoin, go buy Bitcoin. You don't need to pay this guy to go buy Bitcoin for you. But the advisor who can't buy Bitcoin other ways, that might be the first use case someone's come on this show and really said to me, okay, I could see that use case for MSTR. Because otherwise, it's been just madness out there.
It's kind of like plausible deniability. I can own NVIDIA, I can own AMD, I can own MSTR. But the other ones, like public relations, would be a problem, right? So if you're an advisor who has a very tough compliance department, just buy MSTR, and you kind of get a 2-for-1 by just saying I'm buying a technology stock. Right, it's a software company.
It is funny. MSTR, kind of a nice little self-fulfilling prophecy. They buy a bunch of Bitcoin. They put out the news that, hey, we're buying a bunch of Bitcoin. Bitcoin rallies. They have more money to then turn around and buy more Bitcoin.
We've seen this movie before. I mean, like Enron.
What
I don't
could go
know,
wrong with that scenario, sir? I don't see any fault in that logic. Speaking of logic, listeners, people were saying with the rise of IBIT, that's going to really put the knife in BITO. It's done. And, that could still certainly come to pass. Obviously, there's no winner to be declared here yet. This week, though, BITO managing to keep itself alive. 24.60, down about 80 cents from the show last week. The ADV continuing to tick up, though, up to 222,000. It's up only 2,000, but still, it's not going down. It's going in the other direction. I think at the end of the day right now, crypto is so hot. This rising crypto tide is just lifting everything, including BITO. Doesn't seem like it's going to get there today. 104,000 contracts on the tape today. Of that, the big dog today, 12,675 of the Jan 20 calls. Looks like paper blasting away on those. So maybe an aggressive overwrite here for the near-term upside. That's kind of interesting. Probably some of that also coming in maybe ahead of the dividend, trying to ride the stock down and then buy those back a little bit. That's a challenging way to go, but we've seen stranger things out here. Let's see, when is BITO goes ex-div today? Yeah, that's what I thought. 99 cents today. So there you go, listeners. If you're looking to harvest a little bit of the old divvy, that's for you. The vol at a 60 right now, 30-day vol, down about 8 points. And the big position out there, still 106,000 of the Jan 30s. Bill, I know you were always kind of lukewarm on BITO. You kind of liked it, but it was in the futures. It wasn't really what you wanted at the end of the day, which is, of course, what a lot of people wanted, which was the spot ETF. Do you think the impending rise of IBIT spells the end of BITO, sir? What are your thoughts?
I'm not sure if it's the end of BITO. I would just say that I think IBIT is more interesting to me than BITO. And from a year-to-date P&L, we've got MSTR up 513%, Bitcoin up 130, Coinbase up 70, BITO up 65, 66. Probably does not include the dividends, for the year. S&P 500 up 26. So, I think I like iShare products in general. I mean, I use them for a lot of our ETF exposure for our clients. So for me, the volume, the name, I think that works a little bit better for me. And so when I do options, I shouldn't say if, when I do options, I'll be doing them in IBIT. Because again, I still couldn't quite figure out, like the BITO thing was still kind of I'm trying to figure out like, where does all that dividend come from? And it's like a 50% position in Bitcoin and a 50% in US treasuries. And at the time, treasuries were paying like 5.2%. So I don't know. It just seems like IBIT is a pure Bitcoin play. And I like that versus what BITO was doing. And again, maybe I've got it wrong. It's just, maybe I spent 35 or 40 minutes looking into BITO and I'm like, I think I'm just going to wait.
No, I can see that. The dividend's obviously attractive. We talked about it many times, but also it's distortive and it freaks some people out. Like, right, where is this dividend coming from? They can't come to grips with it. So this IBIT does not have that. So that's a plus or a minus for you listeners, depending on your viewpoint out there. But interesting stuff. They're both trading hot and heavy out here this week. And let's go out to Mara, up $1.35, trading $25.35 when we kicked off the show. The ADV, nearly 500,000 contracts, 491 exactly. That's unchanged from what it was a week ago. So Mara still putting up some numbers, and it makes sense. This thing is moving. It's been moving all over the place, and it's putting up nearly 600,000 contracts today, 575. This thing is on fire. The big dog today, 26,000 of the 27 calls expiring this Friday, so expiring on the 6th, as well as the 30 calls going up 26,000 times. I wonder if that's a bit of a vertical. Let's see here really quickly. Oh, seems like it's just going up straight up. The biggest individual print is actually, looks like a synthetic out in January, the Jan 27. So interesting. Mara kind of on fire yet again. Bill, I know we talked about this one before. This one come across your radar. I mean, in terms of volume, it's kind of the winning in the horse race right now from an options perspective, sir. Mara, lighten up the tape again.
Yeah, you can't really say that you got to be too happy with its performance. I mean, it's still trading at its as high as in 2024. I think its 52-week high is maybe 34-ish, and now it's trading 24. It's interesting. I kind of like Mara Holdings, but I can't say that it's really been like a huge performer. So I've got to pick my battles here, Mark. Again, like for my own personal account, I can be more degen, so to speak. But when it comes to managing client accounts, I mean, I'm a fiduciary, right? I've got my fiduciary designation in 2006 from the Center for Fiduciary Studies, and I try to put my clients' interest ahead of my own, and I have to be very prudent with some of these assets. And yes, I've got my handful of degens, but otherwise I have to be kind of old school with our asset management. And Mara is interesting, again, personally. My son's 25. I'm like, dude, you should buy some of this Mara. It's awesome. Whether he has or not, I don't know, because he doesn't listen to me most of the other time. But it's cryptocurrency exposure. It's interesting, but I haven't allocated any of our client funds to it.
Well, speaking of the degens, let's get out there now, listeners. It is time to explore the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, listeners, let's get to the altcoin universe. Let's check in on the raging battle for market cap out here, shall we, listeners? Last week it cost you about $17 billion exactly to break into the top 10. That got you to our old pal Tron. This week, $17 billion. Pshaw. It was just below $10 billion not that long ago. This shows you what a wild ride it has been. Now, number 10 cost you over $19 billion, $19.6 billion. And our old pal Tron also kicked to the curb because it's all about Avalanche this week, listeners, coming in at number 10, not even in our top 10 last week, and taking the number 10 spot. That just shows you what an intense fight it is, the bottom half of our top 10. Avalanche fighting its way into the number 10 spot. Will it be there next week? Only time will tell. $19.6 billion this week. Number 9, USD Coin, $39.8 billion. Number 8, it's Cardano, $41.5 billion. Number 7, yes, climbing all the way to number 7. The Musk love continues. It is Doge, 61, almost 62 billion worth of market cap. It was 59 billion this time a week ago, listeners. So Doge continuing its, some might say, inexorable rise all the way. Will it be the flippening? Everyone's waiting for the flippening with ETH and Bitcoin. What about Doge and Bitcoin? No one had that on their radar, listeners. I just alienated a lot of people. Number 6 is BNB, 91.6 billion. Number 5, it's Solana, 105.3 billion worth of market cap. Number 4, it's Tether, 134. Number 3, it's XRP, 271. What is this creature? XRP. It was trading 52 cents forever. And now finally 271, making up for lost time. If you listen to our buddy, Mr. Greg Magadini, been on the show a lot recently, he thinks XRP is the is the sell signal for the crypto market. But 154.7 billion, the number 3 spot for XRP, listeners. Right behind our old pal, number 2, ETH, 433.25. And the big dog, BTC, 1.88 trillion with a T worth of market cap out here. A lot to unpack. Let's get out to number 2 on our list this week, listeners. It is ETH, 3,607 when we kicked off the show. That puts it up almost 150 points from where it was this time a week ago. It's 3,460 on the show last week. And Bill, I know you've been watching ETH for a long time. An interesting narrative has arisen. It's been kind of percolating in the background of the crypto space for a while, but it's really come into stark relief over the last month and change as everything in the crypto space has rallied. And ETH has rallied as well, but not quite, I should say, kicking into high gear the way that pretty much everything else out there, including its rival Solana, has done. So some people are starting to think maybe the talk of ETH being the number 2 and taking over Bitcoin someday, maybe we need to put a pause on that. Maybe we need to start looking at other candidates, including potentially Solana. Mr. Bill, you've been a long-time ETH watcher. What are your thoughts on ETH's performance of late and that narrative that's floating around out there? So are you a believer in that?
I do believe it. I believe that Ethereum, there were only a few tokens that you could invest in a few years ago, Mark, and Ethereum was definitely the global operating system that was going to change everything. And still, when you buy tokens that you want to stake or earn a rate of return on, they wrap it up in an Ethereum. They wrap it up in Ethereum, basically, like wrapped BTC and other wrapped type of cryptocurrencies that don't stake or don't pay an interest rate. So while the internet now has a yield, basically from Ethereum and other cryptos, You're right. Ethereum has been kind of like boring and like Eastman Kodak and General Motors was back in the day. IBM would be like the horse. That would be like the Bitcoin of our age. And so, yeah, it's a little disappointing to see Ethereum not really take off. But then there's so many other tokens now to choose from, and we didn't have that until just recently. I will say this. I'm going to have to do a quick search on how much money is still tied up in Ethereum, because they have something called TVL, time value locked. And it's still billions and billions of dollars that's tied up in smart contracts and wrap contracts that's earning yield like a certificate of deposit. And that has to be looked into. But you're right. Solana, boy, that is just, they want to be the fastest of all the tokens. And so money has moved that way. XRP, boom, going to be the new Swift payment system, along with the other X's and a few other names. And so as the industry begins to mature, we're seeing new projects, we're seeing new money flow. And I'm not saying that people are selling Ethereum to buy Solana. I'm just saying maybe people have stopped buying Ethereum and using and directing those funds to a quote unquote diversified portfolio, just like the Grayscale GDLC, right? It's like 78% Bitcoin and 10, 12% Ethereum, some Solana, Avalanche, and maybe Polygon. I forget what the other name is, but it may be a touch of XRP. So, maybe it's just, if anything, Ethereum just might be suffering from the fact that you can create a diversified portfolio a little bit more now that the industry is getting more street cred.
Street cred indeed, listeners. Let's see how that street cred is impacting the vol and the skew out here in ETH. The weekly vol ticking up quite a bit, 53 and a third last week, 74 this week. So getting a little spicy on the near term there. 30-day vol, 55 on the show last week, 71 this week. So vol ticking up in ETH land and going out 6 months, 59 on the show last week, 69 this week. So vol getting a little juicy, getting a little spicy out here in ETH land. Maybe they're starting to hear that narrative and they're not liking it, starting to spice things up. In terms of the weekly skew, listeners, it was a 4.35 on the show last week, 4.7 this week. So still biased towards the upside. Going out a full month, it was an even 6 on the show last week, coming in a little bit, 5.31 on the show this week. And then going all the way out a full 6 months, it was a 4.30 on the show last week, 6.20 this week. So gaining nearly 2 points out there. So a little bit of juice to the upside in ETH. What do you folks think? Listen, you buying this narrative that maybe ETH is, as Bill put it, boring? Is it the Eastman Kodak? I like that. Is it the Eastman Kodak of the crypto space, or is that narrative a little bit overdone? Speaking of competitors to the throne out here, listeners, let's run down a few more, then we'll get some of Bill's hot altcoin for this week. Solana coming for the crown out there, taking a little bit of a hiatus this week. It was 239 and a third on the show last week, 222 and 3/4, so down over 16 handles on the week. That's his first pause in a while after just continuing to explode to the upside, listeners. Going out to XRP, $1.47 on the show last week, 274 out there. So up $1.25, so nearly doubling from where it was this time last week, and over 5x from what it's been hanging at seemingly since time immemorial, 50 odd cents for many years. And maybe now that maybe Gensler getting kicked out to the curb, maybe that poses some sort of resolution finally for the XRP folks. Doge, 40.5 cents last week, 42.3 cents, up nearly 1.8 cents on the week. Litecoin, 95.13 last week, 126.95, up almost 32 handles. Litecoin, man, making up for lost time. Cardano, 102 last week, $1.19 this week, up about 17 cents. Polkadot, 8.57 last week, up to 9.06 this week, up nearly 50 cents, 49 cents to be precise. And Bill's favorite, Shiba Inu, a million zeros, 255 last week. This week, 293. So continuing to ride that tide upward as well. But Mr. Bill, whenever you come on the show with us, you always have a few fun altcoin, as you put them, your degenerates in your back pocket for a rainy day. What's in your back pocket this week, sir?
Well, I've talked about this once before, Mark, so I just want to revisit it now that we have XRP really launching. We have Brad Garlinghouse could potentially be the pick for this administration's crypto czar. Wouldn't that be something? It's really interesting, like what happens to an asset class when you remove some of the regulatory pressure that the regulators have issued on these things. But anyhow, the thing that makes XRP so interesting to me, and that is it's this ISO 222 compliant cryptocurrency. So there's a handful of them. And so if we believe in the concept of tokens that bridge the gap, in the financial services world, if you're bringing standardization and interoperability to the crypto space, especially in financial services and in the exchanges, unified messaging, like what the SWIFT payment system really is just like a unified messaging system for banks. And so we have XRP, which we all have heard about and talked about. And yes, I wish I would have held a bag of that, but it was hard to buy in the United States if you could. But XRP, Cardano, Stellar Lumens, Hedera Hashgraph, XDC, and IOTA. Those are like the other tokens that similarly are ISO 222 compliant. So I would encourage your listeners to do their due diligence, do their homework, but maybe take a look at, ADA, ALGO, XLM, HBAR, and XDC. And again, these are tokens that I think are really interesting because they're compliant digital assets. Just as ISO 9000 revolutionized manufacturing, ISO 222 is going to revolutionize and be the standard for any kind of legitimate, quote unquote, legitimate financial services type of token. It's like it carries a fixed message. Like it's the whole thing. Like whenever everything you and I did is in this interoperability token.
There you go, listeners. Bill's, I have to have a little stinger for you, Bill. Bill's crypto degenerates of the week. I like it. Unfortunately, listeners, that music means we've come to the end of another sojourn through the world of crypto. A lot of interesting things to mull over on the show this week. What's going on with ETH versus Solana, some of these other assets out there. What's going on from a vol and skew perspective in some of these names. Is ETH the Eastman Kodak of the crypto market, and a whole bunch more out here. What are your crypto degenerates that you're currently hodling out there, listeners? Hit us up. Let us know. And before we go, Mr. Bill, if folks want to check out what you have cooking, where should they go? What should they do?
Sure. We'll visit Cenacle Capital. That's CENACLE, cenaclecapital.com. If you're interested in having any of your legacy IRAs or 401ks professionally managed, we'd love to have that conversation with you. And of course, if you own cryptocurrency and you own it in a cold wallet solution, or you own it on your phone with a Coinbase app, and you've got biometrics, configured on your phone, if you pass away, your family and your beneficiaries are not going to be able to get a hold of those tokens. So consider going to Amazon.com, checking out our book for estate planning professionals, and buy a copy for yourself, buy a copy for your financial planner or your attorney, and make sure that you take all the steps necessary to capture your seed phrases and the location of where your crypto is for your family in the event of the untimely expiration of your time here on the earth. There's no nice way of saying it. If you hit your checkout date, you want to make sure your family gets your crypto.
There you go. Check him out, listeners. And also check out our pals over there at Amber Data, amberdata.io. The place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. They like you folks listening to the show so much, they made the graphical version of their data free for you folks to access. So get on over there, amberdata.io, to kick the tires and light the fires. That's going to do it for us on the network today. Back again with our usual array of content throughout the week. You should be checking it out if you're new to the world of options or derivatives, or you just want some great options content in your life. We got a whole bunch coming at you, nearly a dozen shows. And of course, if you want to go above and beyond, theoptionsinsider.com/pro to learn more. Then we're back again next week, another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.